The storm clouds were already building above the alien slave market when the day began, but no one cared. The traders shouted, buyers argued, cages rattled, and the smell of dust and fear filled the air. The market on planet Vorth was always a loud, cruel place. But today, something felt different. Something heavy was moving in the wind. At the far end of the market, away from the noise, a young alien girl sat alone on the ground. Her hands were locked in glowing metal cuffs. A thin chain connected her wrists to the iron post behind her. She was small, weak, and trembling. Her purple skin looked dull from hunger, and her long silver hair was tangled like a broken rope. The traders did not even try to sell her anymore. She had been sitting there for days. No food, no water, no hope. Leave her, one trader whispered. She is useless. Her tribe abandoned her, another muttered. She has no power, no strength. She cannot work. She is defective, a third spat. No one will buy such a weak creature. The girl heard every word, but she kept her eyes down. If she looked up, she would cry, and crying always made the traders angry. So she held her breath. She kept still. She tried to disappear into herself. A cold wind rushed through the market, lifting dust into the air. The metal cages shook. A warning alarm echoed across the plaza. The storm was coming closer, fast. People hurried to finish their deals before the lightning reached the valley. The girl pulled her thin blanket close around her body, but it did nothing. The storm winds cut through her like knives. She whispered to herself, voice shaking, "Please, not today. Please." Her cuffs began to glow brighter, reacting to the electricity in the air. She winced as the heat burned her wrists. Traders stepped back. "She will draw the lightning. Keep distance. Move her to the corner." But none of them touched her. None of them cared enough. The sky growled. Heavy clouds twisted together like angry beasts. The entire market trembled as the first wave of thunder rolled overhead, and then everything fell silent. It was strange, unnatural, the kind of silence that makes the hair on your arms rise. Every head turned toward the entrance gate. A lone human walked through the storm dust. He wore a dark coat, hood pulled low, boots covered in sand. His face was shadowed, but his steps were slow and calm, as if he had all the time in the world. Traders stared, confused. No human ever came to this side of Vorth. He walked past cages of strong slaves. He ignored the shouting sellers. He did not look at the glowing warriors, the trained laborers, or the rare species locked behind steel bars. His footsteps led him straight to the lonely corner. Straight to the girl no one wanted. She lifted her head just a little. Just enough to see two boots stop inches from her face. She froze, heart pounding so hard she felt it in her throat. The human knelt down. For the first time in days, someone looked into her eyes. His voice was soft, steady, almost gentle. "Can you stand?" The girl shook her head quickly. "No, no, please. I cannot work. I am weak. Do not take me." The human didn't react with anger. He didn't laugh like the traders. He simply studied the burns around her wrists, the bruises on her arms, the fear in her eyes. Then he stood and turned to the nearest trader. "I'll claim her," he said quietly. The words spread through the market like a shockwave. What? Did he say claim? That one? The weak one? He must be insane. Even the storm seemed to pause. The trader blinked. "Sir, you do not want this one. She is broken. She has nothing." "I'll take her," the human repeated, firmer this time. Lightning cracked across the sky. Dust spiraled through the market. People backed away from the human, whispering in fear or confusion. The girl stared at him, wide-eyed, trembling harder than before. No one had ever chosen her. No one had ever stood near her without disgust. And yet this stranger, this human, was choosing her in the middle of a deadly storm. Why? Before she could speak, he reached forward and gently touched her cuff. "Don't worry," he whispered. "You're safe now." The metal broke with a spark. and the storm above them finally exploded. The storm exploded across the sky the moment her cuff snapped open. A bolt of blue lightning crashed into a distant tower, sending sparks flying across the market. Traders ran for cover, covering their faces with cloth and metal shields. Dust spun wildly in the air. The girl squeezed her eyes shut, expecting pain, expecting punishment, expecting someone to shout at her for daring to breathe. But nothing happened. A warm hand touched her shoulder instead. "Stay close," the human said. His voice was calm even though the world around them was shaking. He helped her to her feet. Her legs were weak, shaking like thin branches in the wind. She could barely stand, but he held her steady. Why did you choose me?" she whispered through chattering teeth. He didn't answer yet. His eyes were scanning the market, watching the traders, watching the sky, watching everything. It was like he was searching for danger before it reached them. "Come on," he said softly. "We need to get out before the storm fully breaks." He pulled his long coat off and wrapped it around her shoulders. The fabric was heavy and warm, smelling like smoke and metal. It felt safe. That feeling alone confused her. Safety was something she had forgotten existed. The trader who had been guarding her stumbled toward them, coughing through the storm dust. "Human, you still want her? Even now? She is cursed." The human turned his head slightly. "She is not cursed. She is mistreated." The trader blinked, not expecting such a calm reply. "Fine, take her then. But don't return blaming us when she brings trouble." The girl flinched at the word trouble, but the human's voice remained steady. "I don't return what I claim." He took her hand careful, gentle, and led her toward the exit. The ground shook again as another lightning strike hit the sand dunes outside the market. The sky roared. The girl stumbled, but he held her firmly. No, I cannot go with you," she whispered, pulling back weakly. "I cannot work. I cannot fight. I have no power." He stopped walking and turned toward her. For the first time, she could clearly see his face. Dust clung to his hair, and his eyes were sharp and calm like dark steel. "I didn't choose you for work," he said. "I chose you because you needed to be taken out of that place." She stared at him, confused. No one had ever said something like that to her. Not in her tribe, not in the market, not in her entire life. Before she could reply, a loud mechanical siren echoed through the air. The human's expression tightened. They closed the gates. High metal barriers slammed shut behind them with a thundering clang. The storm had forced the market into lockdown. Traders shouted, running toward shelters. But something else happened. Something worse. A red scanner light flashed across the sky, sweeping over the market grounds like a hunting eye. The girl grabbed the human's sleeve, fear exploding in her chest. No. They activated the trackers. The human looked down at her. "Trackers? For who?" "For me," she whispered. "My tribe. They want me returned. They said I should not be allowed to leave alive." The scanner beeped sharply. A voice boomed through the storm. "Target located." The girl's breath caught. Her heart stopped. "They found me," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. I told you I bring trouble." The human didn't let go of her hand. In fact, his grip tightened. "Then we move fast," he said. He pulled her into the storm, weaving through the panicking crowd. Lightning cracked behind them. Sand whipped against their faces. The red scanner followed their path, glowing brighter each second. The girl struggled to keep up. Her legs ached, her lungs burned. "I'm slowing you down." The human didn't turn. "You are not slowing me down. Just hold on." The scanner suddenly fixed on their position. A deep mechanical voice roared across the sky. "Hunters dispatched." The girl stopped in terror. "No, the hunters, they will kill you for helping me." The human turned, placed a steady hand on her cheek, and spoke with a calmness she couldn't understand. "I've dealt with worse than hunters." The storm wind wrapped around them. The scanner beam locked onto their bodies. The human lifted her into his arms. "Hold tight," he said. She held onto him, trembling, as he ran into the storm. All she could think was one thing. Why is a human risking his life for someone no one wanted? The storm raged behind them as the human carried the girl through the narrow metal tunnels leading away from the market. The wind screamed, lightning flashed, and the scanner lights hunted from above, but he did not slow down. His steps were sure and steady, as if he had carried heavier weights than fear and storms. The girl clung to his coat, shivering, not only from cold but from confusion. No one had ever lifted her gently. No one had ever held her like she mattered. Her heart beat too fast, and she tried to calm it, but her fear chased her like shadows. After several minutes, the human found a small abandoned storage shelter. He pushed the door open with his shoulder and stepped inside. The room was dark, dusty, and filled with old crates, but it blocked the wind. He lowered her carefully onto a blanket lying across a metal bench. She curled her legs close, still shaking, still unsure if she was safe. The cuffs had burned her wrists, leaving angry red marks. The human noticed and went through one of the old crates, pulling out a small med kit. "You're hurt," he said gently. She shook her head quickly. No, it's fine. Pain is normal. Pain is expected." He paused. Something in her voice made his jaw tighten. Pain shouldn't be normal. She looked down at her hands, ashamed. "For me, it is." The human knelt in front of her and placed the medkit between them. "May I treat your wounds?" She hesitated. No one had ever asked before. They only ordered, pushed, pulled, hit. "Yes," she whispered softly. He cleaned the burns with warm gel. She winced, but he worked carefully, slowly, as if she were fragile glass. His hands were steady, his touch gentle. It confused her more than the storm outside. "Your tribe?" he said quietly. "Why did they abandon you?" Her breath froze. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her throat closed like a locked door. Her body trembled again, not from cold, but from memory. I was born wrong," she whispered. "Every child in my tribe awakens their power at 5 years old. Lightning, spirit fire, energy shields. Something strong," her voice cracked. "But I awakened nothing." The human listened without interrupting. "They tested me again and again. Years passed. Still nothing. They said I was useless, a drain. A mistake." She hugged herself. "When I turned 12, they marked me as unworthy. My own mother could not look at me. My father refused to speak my name." Her eyes slowly filled with tears. "They sold me to the trader. For 1 silver coin." The human closed his eyes for a moment, and she couldn't read his expression. Was he angry, disgusted, pitying? She feared all three. "I'm sorry," he said finally. She blinked in surprise. Why are you sorry?" "You didn't do anything." "I'm sorry because you deserved better," he answered. "You were a child. Children shouldn't be hurt for things beyond their control." She stared at him. His words felt unreal, like something from a story she never believed in. The storm outside suddenly howled louder. The scanner light swept past the small window. The human moved quickly, closing the shutters. "They are still searching," he murmured. The girl's heart sank. "The hunters. They will come. They always come." "Who are these hunters?" he asked. Her hands trembled again. "They are tribal enforcers. They bring back anyone marked as unworthy who tries to escape. They punish them." "How?" he asked quietly. She swallowed hard. "They bury them in sand. Up to the neck, under the sun, until the body stops." The human's eyes darkened. "And they want to do that to you?" She nodded weakly. "Yes. I was supposed to be taken last season. But the trader hid me to make money. Now the tribe demands me back. And if they find you?" "I will die," she whispered. "And anyone helping me will die too." The human didn't move. He didn't show fear. Instead, he sat beside her, back straight, gaze firm. "I don't plan on dying today." he said calmly. She shook her head in disbelief. You do not understand. My tribe is powerful. He tilted his head. So am I, she blinked. But why risk yourself? Why help me? He met her eyes calm, steady, unshakable. Because no one should be hunted for being different. She felt her chest tighten. Not from fear this time. From something warm, something heavy, something she didn't recognize. A sudden beeping sound cut through the room. The human's ship parked outside the shelter had received a signal. He stood instantly. They're close. The girl's blood ran cold. The hunters? No, he said slowly, checking the device. Something worse. The human stared at the blinking device in his hand. The screen flickered with red symbols, sharp and violet like claw marks. The girl leaned forward, fear tightening her throat. Who is it? She whispered. Is it the hunters? The human didn't answer immediately. His eyes scanned the data, his brows lowering. Not yet, he finally said. But something is moving toward us. Fast. The girl's heart dropped. Then it is them. My tribe's hunters always travel fast. No, the human replied calmly. Hunters move in groups of 3. This signal shows. A swarm. Her breath froze. A swarm? Only one group on Vorth traveled in swarms. Her voice broke. No, the sand wraiths. Before she could explain, the ground shook once, then twice, then again. A deep rumbling sound rolled across the desert like a sleeping giant waking up. Dust began to fall from the old shelter ceiling. The human looked toward the doorway. We need to move now. She tried standing, but her knees buckled. The human caught her again. She felt embarrassed, ashamed, heavy like a burden. But he lifted her without complaint. Hold on, he said. He carried her outside. The storm had calmed for a moment, but the sky was still dark and churning. Lightning flickered behind thick clouds. His ship was parked only 20 meters away, half buried in sand. But between them and the ship, the dunes were moving. No, not moving, crawling. Shapes slithered beneath the sand. Dozens, maybe hundreds. The girl's breath shook. They're here. The sand wraiths, creatures that hunted anything weak, scared, or alone, had smelled her fear. The human lifted his rifle from the sand and adjusted her in his other arm. Stay behind me. She shook her head quickly. No, you do not understand. They are not afraid of weapons. Before she could finish, the first wraith broke through the sand. It looked like a giant skeletal insect with long legs and sharp jaws. Its eyes glowed a sickly yellow. It screeched a sound that shook the air like broken glass. More wraiths rose behind it. The girl pressed her face into the human's chest. I told you. I bring trouble. His voice was steady, almost soft, even with death crawling toward them. And I told you, he said, raising his rifle. You are not trouble to me. The first wraith lunged. The human fired one clean shot straight into its head. The creature collapsed instantly, its legs twitching. But the swarm behind it didn't slow down. The human stepped back toward the ship, carrying her with one arm while shooting with the other. His aim was calm, precise. Every bullet hit. Every shot dropped the creature. But for each one he killed, 3 more crawled out of the dunes. The girl watched in terror. We will not make it. We will, he said. A wraith leaped from the right, jaws open. The human twisted his body, shielding the girl with his shoulder, and fired at point-blank range. The creature exploded into dust, but they were surrounded now. Dozens circled them. The human kept shooting, but the ammo count blinked red. 7 bullets. 5. 3. The girl grabbed his coat. Put me down, please. I will distract them. They want me, not you. He didn't even look at her. I am not leaving you. But, no. His voice was sharp but not cruel, like steel hitting stone. In that moment, a new sound cut across the desert. A deep horn. A tribal horn. The girl froze, horror crawling up her spine. My tribe, she whispered. The hunters are here. From the top of the dunes, 3 tall armored figures appeared, black armor, glowing masks, staffs crackling with energy. They looked like shadows carved from night. Their leader raised his staff and pointed directly at the girl. "Return the unworthy one," he commanded. "Or die with her." The sand wraiths screeched and shifted, crawling back slightly. The hunters were even more terrifying than they were. The human slowly lowered his rifle. Not to surrender, but to shield her with both arms. He stepped in front of her, blocking her completely. "You will not touch her," he said. The 3 hunters laughed under their helmets. "You think a human can protect her?" Their leader sneered. "She is worthless." The girl flinched at the word, but the human didn't move. He spoke in a low, dangerous voice. "She is worth more than all of you." The hunters stepped forward. The wraiths circled tighter. The storm cracked open above them. And deep inside the girl's body, something ancient and forgotten began to wake. The sky split open with white lightning as the hunters stepped closer. The sand wraiths crawled back, forming a circle of hissing shadows. The girl stood trembling behind the human, her fingers gripping the back of his coat. She could barely breathe. Every inch of her body felt cold, heavy, useless. "This is my fault," she whispered. "If you let me go, they will spare you." The human didn't move. His stance was solid, like a wall made of iron. "I'm not handing you over," he said. "But I am unworthy," she cried softly. "I cannot fight. I cannot run. I have nothing." He glanced over his shoulder at her, eyes steady and calm. "Not true." Something in his voice made the space around them shift, like the air itself believed him. Before she could speak again, the hunters charged. The leader swung his crackling staff at the human's head. The other 2 leaped forward, claws drawn. The human pushed her back toward a rock and raised his rifle. Firing 3 shots in perfect rhythm, 1 bullet struck a hunter's mask, another hit a shoulder joint, the 3rd shattered a staff. But the hunters were fast. Too fast. One tackled him. The human fell back, hitting the sand hard. "No!" she screamed. 2 hunters pinned the human to the ground. His rifle flew from his hand. The last hunter marched toward her, staff glowing bright blue. He pointed it at her chest. "It is time. You will return to your tribe and face your punishment." Her legs crumpled as she stumbled back. Her breath broke. Fear filled her body like freezing water. I don't want to die." The hunter raised the staff. Lightning from the sky twisted downward, just a thin spark, but it struck the sand near her feet. The girl gasped. Her skin began to glow. A soft, trembling light spread from her chest, then down her arms, then across her hands. Glowing lines like thin silver roots crawled across her skin, pulsing with a gentle rhythm. Her eyes widened in shock. What is happening to me?" The hunter hesitated. Impossible. Her power was never awakened. Another bolt of lightning cracked overhead. The girl's glowing lines brightened. The human, still trapped under 2 hunters, saw her. Even in struggle, his voice cut through the chaos. "Breathe," he told her. "Don't fight it. Just breathe." She took a shaky breath. Her glowing skin pulsed again, stronger, brighter. The hunter yelled, "Stop! She is unstable." Before he finished, the air around the girl shimmered. Wind rose around her, swirling from the sand upward like a rising storm. Sand lifted, circling her small body in a spiraling ring. The silver light grew and grew, wrapping around her like a cocoon. Her voice was small, terrified, cracking. "I don't know how to control it." "You can," the human said, straining against the hunters pinning him down. "I'm here. Just follow my voice." The girl's breath trembled again. The hunter tried to strike her with the staff. But the moment the crackling energy touched the glowing wind, it exploded backward. The hunter flew several meters, crashing into the sand dunes. The human used the distraction to break free. He slammed an elbow into one hunter's mask, twisted, and kicked the second one off him. He scrambled to reach her. The 2 remaining hunters stared in disbelief. She awakened. one hissed. But she was marked unworthy. Her power. It responds to lightning, the other said. She's a Stormborn. The girl hugged herself, terrified. She didn't feel powerful. She felt like she would break apart. Make it stop, she whispered. Please make it stop. The human reached her, placing both hands gently on her shoulders. Look at me, he said softly. Her glowing eyes lifted to his. You're not breaking apart, he said. You're awakening. You've always had this inside you. They just never wanted you to believe it. I can't control it. You can. I know you can. The storm winds around her slowed just a little, just enough. The hunters realized what was happening and raised their weapons to attack. Kill her before she stabilizes, they charged. The girl gasped. The wind exploded outward. A shockwave of silver-blue light blasted across the dunes, throwing all three hunters into the air like broken dolls. The sand wraiths screeched and burrowed back into the sand to escape the light. The dunes fell silent. Only the girl remained glowing, trembling, glowing lines fading slowly like melting frost. The human held her arms to steady her as she collapsed weakly into him. I didn't mean to hurt them, she whispered, shaking. You didn't, the human said gently. You saved us. Her breathing slowed. Her glow faded completely. Her small hands twisted into his coat. For the first time, she whispered, voice breaking, I feel something. What do you feel? He asked softly. She looked up at him, eyes shining with tears. Worth. The desert had finally gone quiet. The sand wraiths had vanished deep into the dunes, fleeing from the girl's silver-blue shockwave. The hunters lay scattered across the sand, unconscious or too injured to rise. The storm above them softened, the lightning drifting farther away like a wild beast returning to its cave. The girl slowly opened her eyes. She was lying on the sand, her head resting against the human's chest. His arm was around her, steady and warm. He had stayed with her while she fainted. He hadn't moved an inch. You're awake, he said softly. She felt embarrassed and shy all at once. Did I hurt you? He shook his head. No, you protected us both. Her cheeks warmed. She didn't know how to handle praise. Her tribe had never spoken to her like this. They scolded her, mocked her, ignored her. But this human, this strange, calm, stubborn human, looked at her like she mattered. He helped her sit up slowly. Her body was weak from the awakening, but warmth still glowed faintly under her skin. You need time to rest, he said. Your ability woke too fast. Your body is adjusting, she frowned. I was never supposed to have an ability. They told me I was empty inside, he smiled gently. They were wrong. The wind moved softly around them, as if agreeing. The girl lowered her head. You don't understand. Stormborn abilities appear only in strong warriors. They said I was too small, too weak, too soft. They were wrong about everything, he repeated. She felt a strange tight feeling in her chest again. It wasn't fear. It wasn't pain. It was new, warm, like a spark. What is your name? She asked quietly. He blinked, surprised. You want to know mine? She nodded. You saved me, twice. He hesitated for a moment, then said, My name is Raylan. She whispered it carefully. Rylan. He waited, then asked, And you? What is your name? She froze. Her throat tightened. Her fingers curled into her palms. She looked at the sand. I don't have one. He frowned softly. What do you mean? My tribe removed my name when they marked me unworthy, she whispered. I was not allowed to speak it again. Rylan stared at her for a long moment, hurt and anger mixing in his eyes, but not at her. Then choose a new one, he said. Her breath shook. Choose? Yes, he said. A name you want. A name that belongs to you, not to them. She shook her head. I don't know how. Then we'll find one together. Her eyes softened, and for the first time in her life she smiled. Only a little, only a small curve of her lips, but it was real. Rylan stood and offered his hand. Come on, we can't stay here. More hunters will come. Her smile faded with fear. More. Yes, he said. Your tribe won't stop after one failed group. And when they see what you awakened, they'll come harder. The girl shivered. What will we do? Ryland's answer was simple. We leave this desert. There's a small human settlement north of here. They can help us. Help me? She asked, confused. Help both of us, he said. He lifted her again. This time she didn't protest. He carried her toward the ship, stepping over broken weapons and cracked sand. When they reached the door, he gently placed her inside the cabin seat, secured her belt, and sat beside her. As the ship engines powered on, she stared quietly at him. Ryland, she whispered, why are you helping me? Really helping me? He looked at her for a long moment, sand slipping from his coat as the ship lifted off. Because no one should be punished for being different, he said. And because I don't walk away from people who need protection. Her throat tightened. But what if I lose control again? Then I'll help you control it, he said simply. And if the hunters come again, I'll fight them. And if my tribe sends more, I'll fight harder. Her eyes widened. You would risk everything just for me? Yes, he said without hesitation. He reached over and gently touched her hand. Because you're not unworthy, he said quietly. You never were. Her heart fluttered, confused and warm and scared and hopeful all at the same time. She whispered, what am I now? If not unworthy? Ryland looked at her with steady, calm eyes. You're someone who deserves a future, he said. And I'm going to help you reach it. The ship soared into the stormy sky, leaving the broken hunters behind. But neither of them noticed something far darker, a black beacon rising from the sand, signaling her tribe. The unworthy one has awakened, and the real hunt was only beginning. The human settlement appeared on the horizon just as the storm clouds broke apart. Golden light fell across the desert like a blessing, warming the cracked sand and shining over the small cluster of metal homes. Smoke rose from cooking fires. Children played near energy wells. Humans waved at Ryland's ship as it descended. The girl pressed her face to the window, amazed. It's peaceful. Ryland smiled faintly. It's home. When they landed, a few settlers jogged over, worried. You're late, Ryland. Storm nearly wiped half the valley. Then they saw her thin, bruised, wrapped in Ryland's coat, silver hair falling across her glowing eyes. Ryland, who is she? He answered without hesitation. She is under my protection. The settlers exchanged glances but nodded. They trusted him. Ryland carried her into a small house built from steel plates and warm lights. It wasn't big, but it felt safe. He set her gently on a soft bed. She touched the blanket with shaking fingers. She had never slept on something soft before. Rest, he said. You'll need strength. She lowered her head. Ryland, thank you. But before he could answer, a deep boom shook the ground. The window rattled. Ryland froze. She felt her heart stop. No, they followed us. He rushed to the window. Dark shapes were landing outside the settlement, large tribal carriers with black armor and glowing red symbols. Her tribe, hundreds of them. Ryland grabbed his rifle. Stay here, don't move. She reached out weakly. No, please. They will kill you for helping me. He looked back. Let them try. He stepped outside. The entire settlement gathered behind him with makeshift weapons, nervous but determined. The sky darkened again as the carriers opened. A tall figure stepped out first, massive black armor, golden mask, cloak of storm feathers, the High Enforcer. The one who enforced the tribe's cruel laws. He slammed his staff into the ground. Energy rippled outward. Return the unworthy one, he commanded, voice booming across the settlement. She belongs to the tribe. Ryland stood alone between the settlement and the army. She belongs to no one, he said calmly. The girl limped to the doorway, watching him stand against 100 warriors for her sake. Her breath trembled. No one had ever stood for her. No one had ever chosen her. The High Enforcer raised his staff. "Move aside, human. This is not your concern." Rylan didn't move an inch. "It is now." A wave of tribal soldiers marched forward. Settlers raised their weapons, but fear shook their hands. The High Enforcer lifted his staff higher, energy gathering, sparkling, ready to strike. The girl cried out, "Rylan, run!" He didn't turn. "I made you a promise." The staff fired. A blast of burning blue lightning aimed straight at Rylan. The girl screamed. But before the bolt hit him, her body moved on its own. She ran into the open, skin bursting into silver blue light. Her glowing lines returned, stronger, brighter, steadier. She raised her hands, shaking but determined. The lightning struck her palms and stopped. The energy twisted, swirled, and bent around her body like it was following her command. Raylan's eyes widened. "You're controlling it." The High Enforcer roared, "Impossible." The girl took a step forward. Her voice trembled, but no longer from fear. "You hurt me. You abandoned me. You called me unworthy." Her glowing aura rose higher, forming a shield around the settlement. "But I am not unworthy." The High Enforcer charged toward her, staff raised. Raylan stepped forward to protect her, but she lifted a hand. "No, Rylan, let me." Her aura flared. A burst of silver blue storm energy exploded outward. The High Enforcer was thrown backward, his staff shattering on the ground. The tribal soldiers froze. The settlement stared. Even the storm above seemed to pause. The girl stood glowing like a living star. "For the first time," she whispered, "I choose my own path." Raylan walked to her side, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. She leaned into him, trembling but victorious. The High Enforcer knelt in the sand, defeated. "What are you?" The girl lifted her chin. "I am Stormborn," she said softly. "And I am free." The tribe, shocked, afraid, humiliated, slowly retreated. Carriers lifted off. The sand settled. The sky calmed. When everything was quiet again, she turned to Rylan. "Why did you stand for me?" she asked, voice breaking. Rylan smiled, soft, warm, proud. "Because you're worth protecting," he said. "And because everyone deserves someone who believes in them." Tears gathered in her glowing eyes. "Then, may I stay with you?" Rylan nodded once. "For as long as you want." She took his hand, holding it close. For the first time in her life, she belonged somewhere, not as property, not as a slave, not as unworthy, but as someone valued. Someone chosen.